Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So Ixalan Standard is finally arrived, so we're kicking off our exploration of the new format with a deck built around one of my favorite cards. We're playing a Favorable Winds deck this week. This is a deck I'm calling Favorable Pirates, and as you can see, the big deal is $43 in the paper world. Ultra budget, basically as cheap as you can get for a deck in Standard. So if you're looking for a super cheap entry deck into the Standard format that you can mess around with, have fun with, win some games with, Favorable Pirates just might be the deck for you. So a quick reminder before we break down Favorable Pirates for Ixalan Standard. If you enjoy this deck, and you enjoy Budget Magic in general, it would be amazing of you if you could take a quick second, click that subscribe button down in the corner of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk Favorable Pirates, and first off, the namesake enchantment, Favorable Winds, is just a very aggressively costed anthem. Comes down for only 2 mana, gives all of our creatures with flying +1/+1 until end of turn. So the weird thing about Favorable Winds in Standard right now is it puts us in this weird position where we have to decide if we're going to be a Favorable Winds deck or a Pirates deck. And in the end, because we're still a little lacking in Pirates, I think we'll have more when we get to the second set, Rivals of Ixalan this winter. We basically are built around Favorable Winds, but with enough Pirates that we can make some amount of Pirate synergies work. So that's kind of the direction that we went with Favorable Winds. But the basic idea of this deck, much like the Favorable Winds deck we played in Modern, is to play really cheap flyers and then use Favorable Winds to turn those cheap flyers into big threats, use them to close out the game quickly. So what are we pumping with our Favorable Winds? And it starts with the 1-drop. So we have, first off, Siren Storm Tamer, which is basically the pirate 1-drop. It's actually very strong. So it's a 1/1 flyer for 1, which is fine with Favorable Winds. We can play it on turn 1, play Favorable Winds on turn 2, start hitting for 2 damage in the air. Also has an ability where we can sack it to counter a spell or ability that targets us or a creature we control. So we can use this to fizzle a targeted removal spell. We can use this to fizzle a lightning strike at our face. We can use this to fizzle Settle the Wreckage, which is actually pretty relevant since that is a spell that targets us. So very powerful in that sense. We also have a couple of non-pirate flyers, and this is where you see the focus of the deck being Favorable Winds. We're kind of valuing the curve. We really want to go 1-drop into Favorable Winds, hit for 2. That's what this deck is trying to do more than playing 100% Pirates. So we have Hope of Gurapur as a 2-of. It's a 2-of because it's legendary. I don't really want to have hands where we have multiple Hope of Gurapurs. It's really clunky. We don't want that to happen. It does have a weirdly nice upside against control decks. We can get in a bunch of damage, sack Hope of Gurapur to make sure our opponent can't fumigate our board or cast an Approach of the Second Sun to gain a bunch of life. So there are matchups where sacking Hope of Gurapur is actually kind of important. And then Blightkeeper is essentially just a 1/1 flyer for 1. It's basically copies 3 and 4 of Hope of Gurapur. Like, Hope of Gurapur is better than Blightkeeper, but since it's legendary, we're kind of filling in the gaps, and Blightkeeper is the next best option in the colors for a flyer that only costs 1 mana. The ability is just too expensive. It's very unlikely that we will ever use it. I mean, it could happen. Maybe the game goes super long, we draw Blightkeeper, we drain our opponent, that would be super sweet, but for the most part, it's just a 1/1 flyer for 1. So those are the 1-drops, looking to slam those on turn 1 into Favorable Winds. Then we have some really powerful flying 2-drops. All of them are Pirates. Kitesail Freebooter is just basically a duress on a stick. We play it, get to grab a Fumigate, grab a removal spell out of our opponent's hand, a Planeswalker out of our opponent's hand, and keep that out of our opponent's hand till they kill the Kitesail Freebooter, which is kind of hard to do with Siren Stormcaller. Favorable Winds pumping our stuff can get our stuff outside of Lightning Strike range, Abrade range. Speaking of being outside of Lightning Strike and Abrade range, Stormfleet Aerialist is very above the curve. This is another reason we wanted to play all those 1-drops, is if we don't have a Favorable Winds for turn 2, we want to play a 1-drop, attack with the 1-drop, which lets us raid our Stormfleet Aerialist as a 2/3 on turn 2. It has flying, so that's actually a very above the curve creature. If we can get just 1 Favorable Winds on the battlefield, it becomes a 3/4, which is just massive outside of the range of a lot of removal spells. So just a very strong, aggressive flyer if we can have that 1-drop on turn 1. Rounding out our flying curve, at 3 we have Ether Sphere Harvester. This basically gives us a bit of game against the very aggressive red decks, very good against Ramen Bread. You see a lot of decks playing Ether Sphere Harvester in the sideboard to beat that deck. We have it in the main deck because it works really well with our plan. It's a way we can upgrade a random 1/1 flyer from turn 1 into a 3/5 lifelinking flyer, which is actually a pretty good deal. Gaining the life can help swing the race in our favor. And then Dreamcaller Siren is one of our pirate synergies. So I mentioned we're kind of this weird split. We want to be built around favorable wins, but we also want enough pirates to make Dreamcaller Siren and a couple of other cards work. But Dreamcaller Siren, very strong because we can play it defensively. Our opponent's creatures are most likely going to be bigger than our creatures, but they're not going to be able to block our creatures since our stuff has flying, so we often get in these race scenarios where opponents hitting us with their ground creatures, we're hitting back with our flying creatures, gaining some life from Ether Sphere Harvester, and fizzling a big attack with Dreamcaller Siren, flashing it in, tap down a couple things, untap, attack for 3 or maybe 4 if we have a favorable wins. That really can shift the race in our favor and help us squeeze out a few more wins. So it's worth making sure we have enough pirates to make Dreamcaller Siren work, because Dreamcaller is a great top end of our curve in this deck. The rest of our deck, Lookout's Dispersal is the other big reason to play pirates. It's just so powerful. If we have a pirate on turn 1, it's an upgraded mana leak on turn 2. Very good counter spell. Even if we have to pay full price, it's not bad. Counter a spell unless the controller pays for it. But when we have a pirate out, it's super, super good. Chart the Course is also great in this deck. We can play any of our 1-drops on turn 1. Turn 2, chart the course, draw some cards. If we need lands, hopefully find them, or we find our favorable wins, more action. Just an insanely strong card draw spell in a deck like ours that's attacking all the time. Then we have for removal, Unsummons, just a nice tempo play. Like I've mentioned before with decks like this, we don't necessarily have to kill creatures forever. Let's say our opponent plays a Ripjaw Raptor. We don't need that to be dead necessarily, but if we can bounce it, attack with all of our stuff, opponent has to spend their mana to recast it, maybe we bounce it again, attack with all of our stuff, we can win on the tempo plan like that. And then Never to Return is basically just a hedge against Planeswalkers. Of course we can kill a creature as well, but it's less expensive towards the budget than Vraska's Contempt, so that's why we went with that option. Mana base, Drowned Catacombs, Submerged Boneyard, Ifnir Dreadlands is just kind of a nice backup plan for killing some creatures, sort of a free roll in the deck. Then a bunch of basic lands. In the sideboard, we get Duress and Spell Pierce, and we are a great deck to take advantage of these 2 1-mana spells. Since we're being aggressive, we're tempoing, we're able to play Duress as a discard spell and follow that up with a threat in the same turn, or play a threat and leave up Spell Pierce in the same turn. And our clock is fast enough that hopefully we can win on the tempo plan before our opponent has enough mana to play around Spell Pierce, for example. So very, very key for our deck, beating control decks, beating decks that are heavy in removal, fumigates, and things like that. Then we have Essence Extraction as a better removal spell if we run into Ramen Bread. Our bounce spells, like Unsummon, aren't that great against Ramen Bread. Their creatures are cheap, they can just replay them. But Essence Extraction kills something forever, basically any non-Hazoret creature in the deck. Well, maybe Glorybringer too if they have it. But it kills pretty much anything in the deck, and the life gain can just help swing that race in our favor. Never to Return comes in mostly for Planeswalker decks to deal with Chandras and other Planeswalkers, and then Sentinel Totem for the graveyard decks. And that is favorable pirates for Standard, and that's our budget Magic deck for this week. So I think this deck is actually pretty sweet, especially considering the price. It's good enough that you can win a lot of games. It's fun to play if you like the modern favorable wins deck. This is very much the standard equivalent, getting aggressive with the flyers in the air. So, I mean, we're tricky, we're aggressive, we can steal a lot of wins, and you just can't beat the price at $43. So super great price, as cheap as it gets. I wouldn't be surprised if, when we look back at Ixalan Standard a few months from now when Rivals comes out, that this was the cheapest budget Magic deck we had for the format. It's just very low end as far as price is concerned. So, anyway, the deck is fun, it plays one of the sweet new tribes, plays a really fun enchantment in favorable win. So anyway, I'll stop rambling, let's get to the video so you can see how it plays. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoy the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, take a second and click that like button down below. It's a great way to help support the channel for free, and you can find the next video in the playlist right here.